We are now learning a sikha, a speech of the Lubavitcher Rebbe that he made in 1956. About the Torah reading of this week, which is Parshas B'Shalach. Parshas B'Shalach talks about how the Jews left Egypt. They went over the sea split. They got over on the other side of the sea, and the sea then closed in on all their enemies that were pursuing them, all the Egyptians, and the Jews sang a song. And this song, Aziz Shir Moshe, is printed in the Torah. It's part of the Torah, and we say it also every day in our prayers. To the point where this Shabbos is also called Shabbat Shirah, the Shabbat of song, because this song was very famous. It's a poem, very famous. Good song. So the Rebbe begins like this. This is in Likutei Sichot Aleph. Livnei Esrim Shana, 20 years earlier, Achron Shal Pesach Tov Reish Sarek Ches, which means 1938, Yishmiya Kabel Kedusha Morichame Sicha, the previous Rebbe spoke. The previous Rebbe, he took over the Chabad movement in 1920. That's when his father passed away. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe's father, whose name was Shalom Dovber, passed away in 1920, just as the communists were really coming into power, and he gave it over to his son, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, to battle the communists, and he won. Communism doesn't exist now. They tried to kill the Rebbe, put him into jail, sentenced him to death, but miraculously he got out, and communism is now a thing of the past. And Chassidic, the Chabad, is now a thing of the present and the future. So the previous Rebbe said a speech, and he talked about the Haftorah of this Shabbat. You know, when we read the Torah portion, is we call up 7 people, and then we call up one more person to read a few of the sentences, the last sentences of the Torah portion, and that person that gets called up, he reads usually from the prophets, usually. And once in a while it's from Divrei Yomim, but usually it's from the prophets. And this week is no exception. The person gets called up, and he reads from the story of the song of Devorah. Now, this is not in the prophets. It is in the book of Judges. Devorah was one of the judges. So it says, "Usipur b'shem Sab Abo." He said, the previous Rebbe said, in the name of his grandfather, the Tzemach Tzedek, his great grandfather, the Tzemach Tzedek, Sabo, that his grandfather, who was the first Rebbe of Chabad, the Admor Zokan, the one who wrote the Tanya, Hiksha once asked a question. Madua, why? Haftarah shel Shabbat Shira. Why is it that the Haftarah, the portion that is read in the Haftarah, B'tashar Devorah, the song of Devorah. Devorah made a war with against Sisera, and Sisera, she defeated Sisera. And when they finished this victory, as they sang a song of these women, there was Shira Shel Isha, the song of a woman. And there's a better song. There's a song of David. And David is also a Haftorah where David sings a song, right? David sings. This happens to be also the Haftorah of Shvi Shel Pesach, the last day of Passover. Last day of Passover is the day when the 7th day of Passover was the date when the Yam Suf, the Red Sea split. That's the day when it actually did split, 3,320 years ago. and we read the Torah, and the Haftorah that's read afterwards, this portion from the prophets, is the song of David, that's in the Divrei Hayomim, that's in Chronicles. But Parshas Bashalach is no Shiras HaGevorim. That is more fitting to the song that is sung in the Parsha of the week. Now, usually the rabbis tried to make the song, the Haftorah, something like the topic of the Torah portion. So here we're laying the Torah portion where the men sang a song. So it should be that we have the Haftorah portion that's sung should be also men singing, namely David. Why the Song of Women? It says the reason is like this. In this week's parsha, it's true that the men sang, but there's also a song of the women. In this week's portion, it says that after all the men sang, when they left Egypt and they went across the sea, so it says the men sang, also Moshe B'nai Yisrael, and it says afterwards, after they finished singing, Vatikach Devorah, that Miriam, she took also the toph in her hand, Moshe's sister. And all the women also sang. This is in this week's portion. Of course, it's secondary to the men singing. The men sang first. Right? The men sang first. When they counted the Jews, they counted the men. So the song of the women was nice, but it was seemingly secondary. If so, why in the Haftorah, the portion that we read from the prophets or whatever, after we read the regular portion, it should have men singing? Why women? It says that the women sang. It's true that in the portion, our Torah reading, it says that the women sang with their tupim, mecholot, with their drums and with their whatever cymbals. Vatan le Miriam, and Miriam said to them, Shir la Hashem ki go'i go'ah. Miriam sang the same song with the women that Moshe sang with the men. Madua Evo, good. It's true that they sang, but it's not as important as the men singing. Why is the Haftorah a song of women? Vatasher Devorah, the Devorah sang. Why? It says the Merazokin said a song, a story, a long story. And this is printed. And the end of the story is that when the Jewish people got out of Egypt and they went into the sea and they got out on the dry land, and they sang a song. Also the women afterwards, they sang also song. But in addition to this, it could be that they sang at the same time. It could be at the same time. They're just in the Torah, it's written one after the other. But they sang separately. The women sang separately from the men.
There's even, I've read even legend that babies inside the womb sang a song.
And babies inside of the womb. It says that, right. It says that
miracle is that everybody just knew the same song at the same time.
There's different opinions in the Gemara. How they sang. According to one opinion, Moshe said Ashir el Hashem, and everyone said Ashir el Hashem. There's different opinions on exactly how they sang. But you're right. According to one of the opinions, everyone instinctively, somehow or other, knew exactly what to sing at the same time. And it says that even the children, even the fetuses, they said, Zeh Keli Van Veo, this is my God. They pointed. They said, this is... But Nosavakach, in addition to the fact that they had drums and cymbals, the simcha, they were in joy, Lefichach, Haftarah Shabbat Shira is V'tasha Devorah. The men sang, but when they sang, they didn't have any instruments. And it says that the women did bring instruments, and the reason that they brought instruments is because their joy was greater than the men. Why was their joy greater than the men? V'tasha Devorah, Kol Hayam in the upper spheres of Malchus. That Dvorah sang, their song was happier. Why? We'll see. L'chora, first at a glance, not understood. Why was the song of Moshe and the men of Israel, Hagavorim, why wasn't it in such joy as that of the women and Miriam? They all got saved from the Egyptians. You think even the joy of the men might be greater. They were the ones that would have had to engage the Egyptians in war. They would have had to fight against the Egyptians. They would have been the first ones to suffer too. Everyone was happy, but the men were really very, very anxious. We'll see. The reason is why were the women happier than the men? Lefi pshuto, the simple reason is mishum kashe masigim davar the lo amal. When a person achieves something with no effort, lelo tsar, and without any pain, it is impossible b'shum ofen to feel in any way oto simcha, that joy kakabi davar, in regarding to a thing ba'amal rab, that you worked at, va'avar milchamos kashot, and you fought many battles. Lafum tsara agra, like it says, according to the pain is the reward. Mikol shegadlu techilat hayegia v'gadol tsar, the greater effort and the greater difficulty you achieve something with, gadol yoter simcha, the joy is greater. What's the Rebbe talking about? What type of effort did they put in? The women put in that the men didn't put in. Yisrael, when the men, Omu Shira, they said song, Al Kach Paro and Mitzrayim, and the fact that Paro and all the Egyptians, Tavu B'yam, sunk in the sea, Shehem Yatsu Migalos Mitzrayim, and all the Jews were now free, totally free from Egypt. Right? Until that moment that all the Egyptians sank in the sea, the Jews were not really free from Egypt yet. They still were worried. The Moshe and the men, the Jewish men, were not able to feel b'shas maisa at that time, but oto simcha, at the time, that joy of Miriam and the woman. Why? Shekain hakasha v'yoter, because the hardest thing, the most difficult thing in Galus Mitzrayim and the Gezerot Geruot and the worst decrees, there were Bo la'achar shenolda Miriam. They came after Miriam was born. The Gezerah Achamora, and the worst of them was Kalabena Yalud Ayora Tashnechu. The worst decree that there was in Egypt, making everyone work hard, because everyone had to suffer. There was no reward. But the worst of all was taking the male sons and throwing them into the sea. That the men didn't suffer such a thing as the women. The women were closer emotionally to their sons than the men were. All the difficulties that were beforehand, when the Jewish people were working, right, the Jewish people had already been in servitude before Moshe Rabbeinu came to take them out. They had already been in servitude many years. All the work that they did, all the work that they had to work in hard work, this is in last week's section, does not in any way reach the severity, the Gezerah Shel Hashlachas Haben, throwing the male children into the sea. Afterwards, according to what the rabbis say, a Gezerah Shaparo Yitrachetz B'Domim Shel Yisrael, says that there was another decree that Paro would wash himself. He had leprosy or some sort of a skin disease, and his advisors told him that the way to cure it is to wash in the blood of children. So he had a lot of children around. There were children, a big supply. Ha'em, a mother, mitnaset, is tested. She is, how do you say, suffers. In experiencing these things, yoter minav, more than a father. Father, everyone suffers, but the woman is much deeper, a deeper type of a suffering. Therefore, kishe nifteru b'paro, as soon as they were exempt from Paro and all of his decrees, The joy of the women was greater, much greater, than the joy of the men. So a very deep answer that the Rebbe is giving. Kachol Sipur Torah, very psychological answer. Right? Women have much deeper connection to their children than men do. To their children. Kachol Sipur Torah, Kach Kama Sipur Shel Yetzias Mitzrayim. Like all the stories of the Torah, also the story of going out of Egypt. But Devar Shira, the whole story of them singing and the joy and the tupim, where they had drums and they had cymbals. Shel Miriam and the women, Mishamesh Hora. This comes to teach us something about now. The Torah is an eternal book. It's true that the Torah, nowadays we have internet, we have electricity, and we have automobiles and things like that, but human beings are the same. Human beings are exactly the same as the first day that Adam was born, and he ate from the tree, and Cain killed Hevel, and maybe now we're a lot lower than we were before. Now the Cain killed Hevel. It was very difficult for him to kill his brother. He didn't know how to do it, but now you can just push a button, you can kill 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people, God forbid, at one time. No, now everything is they're civilized, automated. So people are exactly the same. Anger is the same. Selfishness is the same. Depression is exactly as it was from the beginning of creation. Nothing whatsoever has changed. And the Torah is the instruction book to tell us how to deal with these and connect them to the creator of the universe. Av davar zeh, also this. It says, Vat-teitzena, and there went out all of the women after her. As soon as the women realized that they didn't have to worry about Paro and his men anymore, they all went out. Kol Neshei Yisrael, all of the women, at Sof Kol Hadoros. What does it mean, all the women? Not just all the women that were there, all of the women for all of the generations of Israel. Miriam, they go after Miriam, they sing a song to God. Ki goi go'on, he's very high. Sus baruch baruch yom. He threw the horse and the rider into the sea. Elokus v'kedusha, godliness, holiness. Ga'oi ga'ah, high. Bedarga nalit she'en l'mayli mimena. The women, they sing song to God. They are grateful to a level of godliness that there's no deeper level than this. We have to remember, here God personally did a miracle. He did a miracle personally for the Jews. It shows that he cares, and he cares for the good. He could have done a miracle for the Egyptians also. He could have done what he wanted. Why did he do a miracle for the Jewish people? It shows that God cares, and it shows that God has a desire to be involved in the world, and that he reacts to situations that are here. And everyone was happy. They were happy that God cares about the world. The world is very important to God. Not only that, the women sank to a higher level of godliness than even the men. Things that are the opposite of holiness. Things that fight against holiness. The horses and the chariots of the Egyptians, what did God do to them? Rama b'yam, he threw them into the sea. Mushlachim la'onke matzulos, they were sent down to the depth of the deeps. Lo b'darga nechut lava, not just a lower level, but Ramayam, God threw them with power into the sea. Chazak on the omak, that there's nothing deeper than it. So what Paro that was at the highest was ruling over the world. He was ruling over the Jews. The Jews were servants. So God threw him down to the lowest of low. Kavara domer pam shegazeres kol abena yaluda yaora tashlichu. We already talked about this, if you remember, 2 weeks ago, that the decree of Paro that he made of throwing the sons, the boys, in the river. So you might think, hey, okay, listen, it was a terrible thing, let's maybe shed a tear, but that's it. Right? It was a terrible thing that happened 3,000 years ago. Let's get over it. Come on. He did it. He says, no, that decree exists right now. Paro who throws people into the sea? What are we talking about? Maybe Daesh or something. What is it, Daesh? Who throws people into the sea nowadays? Right? Once in a while you see these videos of these Arabs, cutting some guy's head off. But taking children, throwing them into the sea. Who throws children into the sea? says every child is trying to be thrown into the sea. The sea this exists in every generation and every country. As soon as a Jewish child is born, what is the order of life? As soon as the child is born, you're supposed to be teaching him Torah and mitzvahs. All of a sudden comes Paro, the king of Egypt. Who is this? And he says, namely, what is this Paro, the king of Egypt? The spirit of the times that exists in that country. It says, a child is born. He's going to get married eventually. He's going to grow. Children don't just stay babies. They grow up. And he's going to get married. You know what happens when you get married? You have children. You know what happens when you have children? They eat. Kids eat. Let's not pretend. Yitztarech lios parnes. You're going to have to provide money. Yeshiva, if so, kavar right now, the child is only 3 years old. Lashlichu leyor. Throw him into the river. The river? The Nile River. What was the Nile River in Egypt? The Nile River in Egypt provided the livelihood for everybody. That was the life support. And that was their parnasa. That's where they got. Kol amazonos b'parnasa, all the food and all the livelihood of the Egyptians came from the Nile River. Bo yitbol v'yitva. Says this is where we should sink the children. Throw your children into, to make money. Basher, what about Torah and mitzvahs? Paro will say, send them to Sunday school. Yeshnu la Sunday. You can send them to Sunday. Yom Rishon Shavazua. And by Sunday, in the Ula Bank, on Sunday the bank is locked. Bachaniot and all the stores are closed. Be'erev HaKodesh, before, take the child to the show. The call Hashanim Tovos, to all of the year. You have to show the kid you love him, right? So the father is busy working, he's sunk in the Nile River the whole week. And the mother, she's probably also got a job. Now you have one day is free. You have Friday, Saturday night, Sunday. Saturday night, take the kid to a show. That's it. The father hasn't got anything to talk to his child about. So he takes him to see, whatever is Jurassic Park or something. And they see this movie, and now you see the son will love his father. What about in the morning? Because the children, the father and mother want to sleep until 12 in the afternoon. They don't care what the child does, if he goes to Sunday school or not. And if he learns, then they don't care. Not only will they learn to sing and to dance, but maybe they'll even learn Hebrew, and maybe they'll even learn Chumash. And the parents, they can sleep. They can be sleeping, not only physical sleep, also spiritual sleep. Afterwards, afterwards 1 in the afternoon, they will stuff television down his throat. Call Noah baseball. Maybe he wants to go to another movie. You'll see a movie on television. Baseball. They have to watch the baseball game. Benara Nilos, throw him into the sea. Says, really, what should it be? Instead of tying the child, attaching the child to the creator of the universe, that he's really the one that provides all the livelihood for everyone. Only then, if the child is attached to God, will he have a life that has some sort of a meaning to it. This is really the way that a Jew can get his livelihood. A Jew, the Kfar Chabad is filled with people that they learned, their whole lives they learned in Torah, they learned in yeshivas. All of a sudden they get married, they have a family, they have to find a job. What are they going to do? All of a sudden they find that they're good in computers. This guy finds that he's good in business. This person discovers that he's a good salesman. This person discovers he's a good teacher. All of a sudden everybody has a house and they have parnasa, they have life. How does this thing work out? The answer is that God also is involved. God really does split the sea and take us over. He really is involved. Shekain afim parnasatam, even though that the Goyim depends on the Nile River, but the Jewish people say no. Those who are attached to God, those people are really alive. By means of this, that the Jews, they are attached to Hashem, and they have faith in Hashem, and they have trust in Hashem. And of course, we have to have to add on that they're partners with Hashem. They're partners with God, and they make vessels for the blessings. Therefore, they'll open up a business, they'll get involved in the stock market, whatever they do. But you can be sure that if he's really attached to God, that he's not going to cheat, and he's not going to lie, and he's not going to get all upset, and he's not going to get jealous, and if his stock falls, he's not going to jump out of a window. Because he realizes that this is the way that God wants it, and God will provide. Al Yedezeh, by means of this, they live because they're attached to the Creator. Al Yedekach, Yeshlam Parnasam, because of this, they have a livelihood. Man Yahav Chai, the one who gives life, Yahav Mazoni, will give food. Like it says, the same God who makes us hungry, he's the same God that gives us teeth to eat with. God will take care of us. Instead of this, the parents throw them into the Nile River. That separates them, not only from spiritual, even from physical life, it separates them. The children think, right? The child comes home and says, I hear that the next door neighbor, Sean, is better at mathematics than you are. That's what I heard. That's what his mother told me. He's the best in the class. Why aren't you the best in the class? I try, what do you mean you try? What do you... All of a sudden the kid's uptight. Why, there's somebody better than you? How can it possibly be? He's going to go to Harvard. You're going to only go to Yale. Who knows what it is? ומשום שבכאמור הדרך היחיד שישנו ליהודים לחיים ופרנסה is by means of attachment to the creator of the universe. Let's do two more. Kashem, just like...
Should we stop this? Or?
Okay, let's stop now. Good.